Hello, and welcome to the Mindful Mama podcast. Here, it's about becoming a less irritable, more joyful parent. At Mindful Mama, we know that you cannot give what you do not have. And when you are thriving, when you have calm and peace within, then you can give it to your children. I'm your host, Hunter Clark-Fields, Mindfulness Mama Mentor. I coach overstressed moms on how to cultivate self-awareness in their daily lives to take family and life to a new level of awakening. I've been practicing yoga and mindfulness for over 20 years. I'm the creator of the Mindful Parenting course. So welcome. I'm so happy you're here. Yay! Woo! So this is officially the first Mindful Mama podcast. This is a continuation of my Yoga Stories Project podcast. And it's the change is indicative of what has gone on in my life, where yoga was what I felt comfortable with, what I felt like was in my wheelhouse. But then as life went on, I saw that yoga was a tool, was part of a bigger picture and part of what I wanted to work towards in a bigger picture of helping make generational change and helping create more peaceful, grounded families. And yoga is a part of that. So now, with this podcast is about bringing it all together into one podcast, into the Mindful Mama podcast. So I'm so happy you're here. If you're a Yoga Stories Project listener, thank you for coming along for the ride. And I'm thrilled that you're here. This is the first inaugural episode of the Mindful Mama podcast. So this episode is going to be called Take the Reins. And because what we're going to do is talk about a Zen story that is really very apropos to this day and age. We will be mixing it up here on Mindful Mama. There will be interviews, episodes with just me and you. And once a month, I will have my friend Carla Nomberg on to discuss mindful parenting. I will also be doing some Q&A episodes, so send your questions to hunter@hunteryoga.com. Before we dive in, I want to let you know that the Mindful Parenting course is coming. We are scheduled to start on March 6th. You can go to mindfulparentingcourse.com. Enrollment is not open yet, but you can get your name on the waiting list for that. So you can go check that out. And then I have other events coming up. So as this tribe has really grown over the years, it's exciting. I will be holding in-person retreats now. I'm really excited about this. So this episode is going out in January, around my birthday, the 21st. The first retreat, in-person retreat, will be a really intimate day-long retreat in San Diego. It's called the Mindful Mama Transformation Day-Long Retreat. And this, I'm so excited for this retreat because it's in this beautiful, beautiful setting in a home a block away from the beach in La Jolla, in San Diego, and we'll be having a beautiful lunch, and we'll be really diving deep to do some great self-understanding work and also doing some yoga, doing some mindfulness, learning more about yourself, and you're going to leave feeling really empowered and big change, ready to either make that big change or have made some big change in the retreat. So I'm really excited to do this retreat, and it's the first one. So if you are listening and you're in California, come on out. It's March 22nd in California. So that's also on hunteryoga.com events. And then I'll be doing some other retreats, another retreat weekend in March 31st to April 2nd. And that is with my friend Carla at Copper Beach Institute in Connecticut. Again, go to hunteryoga.com events for that one. And then finally, this spring on May 20th, I will be doing an in-person retreat for my local peeps. And there's no sign up for that yet, but mark your calendar. It'd be great to see you there. So just a quick recap, Mindful Parenting course, go check that out. And then the retreats. Now let's get into this podcast. So here's a story. A horse suddenly came galloping quickly down the road. There's a man riding the horse, and it seems as though the man had someone really important to go because he's like booking it. Another man who's standing alongside the road shouted, "Where are you going?" And the man on the horse replied, "I don't know. Ask the horse." So I love this story. This is a Zen story that really points to how powerful our habits are, how powerful our habit energy is, our inertia. And it's, like something we have done this way all of our lives. So that's how we continue. We are busy and hurry because that's the way life is. We have to be perfect, not accepting our humanity because that's how we grew up. That's how we were always treated, right? We might threaten our kids with punishment because that's how our parents did it. That's how culture does it. So the horse of habitual living is just taking places that we may not want to go. Habit takes us into busyness. Habit takes us into feeling never good enough. Habit takes us even into having like hostile us versus them relationships with our kids. It can be pretty insidious. Yet, when things don't feel good, rather than kind of face our habit, often what we turn to is comforting or numbing ourselves. We turn to eating or watching TV or alcohol and things like that. It's hard to sort of look at these uncomfortable things. If we stop to ask from time to time, right, why we're doing whatever we're doing, sometimes we might have an answer. But often it's not really a very good one. You just get used to it. It's how we're taught to live, right? That we live this way because we live this way. But as much as we're running on this horse, it really gets us nowhere. I'm sharing this story with you today on the first episode of the Mindful Mama podcast because we really need to learn how to take back the reins in our lives and let the horse of habit energy know who's in charge. Because the truth is, you're in charge and you always have been. So we have in our brain, neural networks, right? We have these networks of connection. And I went to a talk a long time ago as an undergraduate that made me understand this in a really big way. And the teacher talked about how the neural connections, the connections between the different places in the brain, they're like roads. And in fact, they can become like highways, right? They can become thicker and smoother and stronger. So it's actually much easier for a thought to happen, like for that pattern to happen. So it's kind of like when we have a brand new thought, if we're trying to do something new that's difficult and it almost hurts your brain, that's like you're like bushwhacking through the woods in your mind, in your brain. And as you become more comfortable with that, you're kind of blazing a trail, right? You're walking across that neural network, so it becomes smoother. And then eventually, if it becomes more tramped down, it becomes easier to travel. And eventually you might make that neural network into a superhighway that's super, super easy to travel. Well, our habits, our habit energy are things that are like strong superhighways. So if our strong habit is to blame or to give orders to our kids, maybe, that's a really strong habit. Often it just happens so immediately that we don't have that moment to pause and make a different choice. But the truth is that you are in charge and you always have been. So this is where we come to that mindfulness practice. You're in charge. Mindfulness is about putting you in charge of this incredibly powerful thing in your head called your brain and your mind, right? Instead of just having the horse run away, you take the reins and you say, no, I would like to go to this place. I would like to go to this place. That is really a great metaphor for what mindfulness is. It's what helps us to, rather than to be pushed and pulled, for us to make decisions about where we would like to go and what we would like to do. So let's just pause here for a moment and remember that life is short. I'm recording this in my home studio where I actually have a pretty impressive skull collection. I once went to the Vermont Studio Center as a an artist residency working on my artwork at the Vermont Studio Center. And I use animal imagery, and someone found a cow skull. This is sort of an aside, I guess I have to say. Someone found a cow skull, which I have to tell you, a cow skull is enormous. And so someone gave me this cow skull, and I drew the cow skull, and it was great. And then at the end of the residency, they said, Hunter, do you want the cow skull? And I was like, wow, what a gift. This is great. I can take home this cow skull. And so I took home the cow skull. So I wrapped this cow. I made like a cardboard container to put this enormous cow skull in. And I went to the Vermont airport, which is a small airport. And I went to the airport, and I had my cow skull as carry-on. And so I bring it up to the X-ray machine, and they're going through, and I'm watching them as they're X-raying my cow skull. And so they get to my cow skull, and they all look up with this question in their eyes. And I just say, I'm an artist. And they're all like, oh, okay, great, fine. They waved through my cow skull, and I tucked it under my seat and carry on. So you can take your cow skull on carry on, just in case you're curious about that. But anyway, I talked to you about the cow skull because life is short. Life is really short. I don't bring this up to be morbid, but to really remind us of how precious our time is. We don't ever get to do this again. This is it. This is the only time I'll be doing this podcast, listening to you, sitting in my studio. This is the only time I'll be on the cusp of 39 years old. This moment is it, right? We're never going to get this moment again, ever. So I'm bringing this up to say, what is most important to you? How do you want to live? In other words, are you living and parenting by design or by default? If you don't decide how you want to live, if you don't make a conscious decision about how you want to feel every day, if you don't decide what kind of relationship you want with your kids, then you're going to get the default, feeling busy, overwhelmed, and irritable. But once you decide, then you can design. So when they came along, my children were the most important thing in my life. I made a decision to have a close, nurturing relationship with my children. It was the most important thing to me, was to have this relationship with my children, because having my children just upended everything for me, and it just became the most important thing in my life. You might be able to relate to this feeling of like, oh my gosh, now everything's different. And this is so, so important, right? So when it happened that my habit horse energy of anger and irritability and yelling reared up, I took action to change things because I had already made that decision. I had decided that I was going to have a close, nurturing relationship with my children, and yelling scared the crap out of my kids, and my anger made them frightened. It wasn't cool. It was really eroding in a really powerful way our relationship. And I only have this life. This is it. I only have this life. So I made that decision to have this nurturing relationship with my children. So therefore, I took action to change things. What did I do? I dedicated myself to my mindfulness practice. I learned skillful communication skills that I didn't know before. I worked on my anger, trying to take care of my anger, and take care of my irritability. I really practiced these communication skills that I was really pretty bad at first, right? And we aren't perfect now. We don't have perfect relationships. I don't think that exists. Maybe if it did, it would probably be harmful. Who wants to have absolutely perfect parents? Who can live up to that? But I have close, nurturing relationships with my children. And the reason I have those relationships with my children is by design. It's because I didn't just go by the default of this is the way it was done for me, so this is the way I'm going to do it. So I'm asking you right now, how do you want to live? What is most important to you? I'm inviting you right now to take the reins of your habit horse energy. Who's in charge right now? You or your habits? That's what I want to know. And if you're listening and you're kind of nodding and thinking, oh, my habits, well, it doesn't have to be that way. You can make a choice. You can make changes right now. So that's it. That's it for this episode. I just want to inspire you to make some changes, inspire you to not even make some changes, but to really take that first most important step, to make a decision, right? To decide how you want to live. Write it down. How do you want to live? What's most important to you? Ask yourself this question, journal on it tonight, and see if you're actually investing your time, your energy, your money. Are you investing in the places that are most important to you? Are you saying, my kids and my relationships with my kids are most important, but then investing all your time, energy, and money in, I don't know, something else? The thing about these powerful decisions is that we need to let them be a guide for us. We need to make a priority an actual priority in our lives. And I know, life gets in the way. There's so much complexity to this. There's so much complexity. But I'm wondering right now, what would you like to be a priority, and how can you make that actually live that as a priority in your life, right? Rather than living by habit, rather than living by default. That's it, my friend. I want to thank you so very much for listening to the first episode of the Mindful Mama podcast. Yay! I told you the Zen parable of the horse rider galloping through. The horse is in charge. Where are we going? The horse is going. Ask the horse. If you have any questions about this, you can email me at hunter@hunteryoga.com, and I will have show notes right now at hunteryoga.com, but that might change. So if you're listening to this in the future, even if that's changed, you can still go to hunteryoga.com and find those show notes. Remember that I have exciting things coming up. The Mindful Parenting course is coming. It's coming up. And before the Mindful Parenting course, I didn't even mention this. Oh my God. I'm doing the free Mindful Mama retreat, and that starts on February 5th, 2017. So you can go to hunteryoga.com/mindful retreat to join if you want to. There'll be expert interviews. It's really good, exciting retreats designed specifically for moms who want to be less irritable and more joyful. And then in March, Mindful Parenting is starting. So the early bird pricing will be coming and going. If you want to make sure you get in on the Mindful Parenting course, early bird pricing, go to mindfulparentingcourse.com, sign up for the waiting list. Thank you to William Fields for the music. Yay! Thank you, Bill, my honey. And thank you so much for listening. I'm really happy to talk to you today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Like I said, coming up, I'm gonna have a monthly episode with Carla Nullenberg. I will still have interviews. You can email me, hunter@hunteryoga.com, with suggestions for people to interview and questions to get answered on the podcast. And my friend, I am wishing you a beautiful, beautiful, inspired week. I hope that you feel that power within you to make that change that you're wanting to make, because you have it. You're in charge. It's awesome. So have a lovely week, my friend. Namaste.